after 2 seconds of it, you feel like you can sing along because it's only one thing.
Talk about, cinematic sort of approach to composition. Christmas is coming. Anticipation. What chord are you starting on? Something is coming!
Yes!
Christmas is coming!
As with many people, I have listened to this so many times over the course of my life. Like every Christmas, this is what was playing at my parents' house.
Musicians React.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome back to a special episode of Professional Musicians React, Christmas edition. I'm Jack Conte, half of the band's Pomplamoose and Scary Pockets and CEO of Patreon. This is Ryan Lerman. Ryan is played with everybody from John Legend to Michael Bublé, is also half of Scary Pockets, and we are joined today by special guest, Charles Cornell. Charles is an amazing YouTuber, got over 1 million subs in half the time that it's taken Scary Pockets to get to 800,000 subs. And Charles has 100 million views on YouTube, makes amazing videos where he just really digs into what makes music great. I'm addicted to Charles's videos. You should go watch them. They're incredible. Welcome, Charles. We're so psyched to have you.
I don't know if I can live up to all of that, but thank you.
And today, what are we going to be talking about, Jack?
I actually don't know what we're talking about.
I know what we're talking about.
What are we talking about?
Let me give you a hint.
Okay.
What are we wearing?
Sweaters. Are we talking about sweaters?
Today's episode is all about sweaters.
Sweaters.
Different types of sweaters, materials. No, we're talking about Charlie Brown Christmas. We're talking about Vince Guaraldi.
Oh, yes!
Some of the greatest Christmas music of all time.
Dare I say, the greatest.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this because my sweater has a menorah on it. So stay tuned, and I'll be talking about the greatest Yiddish folk songs.
Well, some of the greatest Christmas songs of all time were written by Jews. Right?
That's right. Thank you. Who else do we have here, Jack? Who's in the booth there?
Tim Sonnefeld. We got engineering the session. Tim, what's up?
Everything's good. I have a Grateful Dead Christmas sweater on, so,
Is that a Grammy in your pocket, or are you just happy to see us?
You know it, baby.
Oh, God, Ryan.
Tim is a Grammy award-winning engineer. Right. Twice over.
Yep.
For Usher and
Elvis Costello.
Elvis Costello. Who can forget?
You guys remember so well.
What is a Christmas album or holiday album or song that you think is underrated that people ought to check out?
Charles?
Boy, you guys just dropped this one on me. Yikes. Boy, that's a tough one.
Do you listen to holiday music?
I'm going to go with She and Him.
That's a great one.
From She and Him.
That's a great one.
I'll be home for Christmas.
I don't think that Bing Crosby's version of Mele Kalikimaka gets enough attention.
Oof.
Mele Kalikimaka is a thing to say on a bright Hawaiian Christmas day.
Okay, I don't know if I'm even supposed to talk about this, but I'm going to use this platform to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is Johnny Bowtie Barstow.
Was too certain for shepherds in fields as they lay.
Yeah, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that.
A Charlie Brown Christmas is the 8th studio album by American jazz pianist Vince Guaraldi. His 8th record. The album was released in 1965 in the U.S. by Fantasy Records and was Guaraldi's final studio album for the label. It's the soundtrack to the Christmas television special of the same name.
People sleep on Vince Guaraldi, man.
Yeah.
They totally sleep on him. Because the thing we forget is just how many people were exposed to jazz, especially like piano trio jazz, by Vince Guaraldi through the avenue of Charlie Brown Christmas. I mean, it's one of the most, I don't know where it falls on the charts, but it's probably one of the most watched Christmas movies of all time.
So you know what? I'm going to make an unfair comparison here, but Vince Guaraldi is to jazz piano as Carl Sagan is to science.
Ooh.
He's like a popularizer of the genre and the instrument and the idea.
Dare I say Carl Sagan was far more popular even than Vince Guaraldi was.
It's true.
But your point I think is is accurate.
He's like a gateway drug to jazz piano.
Very much so.
Because I think the thing about Vince that I just really appreciate his playing is the pop form and pop background of it. It almost is pop, but then it is also jazz. Do you know what I mean? Like he does such a good job of making it
accessible,
and grounding it. But it's not like it doesn't sound like he's trying to simplify or make it lowest common denominator.
Right.
It just sounds like that's what he feels.
It's honest.
Yeah.
It's not gimmicky. I feel like so much of the time people make Christmas records. It's like, all right, guys, here comes the cash. We're gonna sell out. We're gonna give the people what they want. Christmas happens every year, and here it is. Bring me the money.
I've always said that there's got to be a cutoff for, like, there should be no more Christmas music after a certain date.
Right.
You know, like that date is going to change for everybody. Like for me, it's going to be like way earlier than probably a lot of people. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, every time there's a new Christmas album, I want to go, why?
Right.
Okay, let's listen to the song. This is Vince Guaraldi Trio. Christmas Time is Here. We got Vince Guaraldi, obviously, on piano, Jerry Granelli on drums, and Fred Marshall on bass.
Which, how many people know that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't know it. I'm reading it. Here we go. This is Vince Guaraldi, Christmas Time is Here.
And wait, just to clarify, to state the obvious, he wrote this song.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote this song.
Yeah.
I feel
Wait a minute. Really?
Wait, I feel like a lot of people don't know that.
Tim?
Do you not know that?
Is that true?
I believe that
Yeah.
he wrote all of the songs.
He
that-
wrote-
I don't know if there's any
he wrote
standards
these
on this,
songs.
but he wrote
So the
this.
only standards on this
How did I not know that?
There's O Tannenbaum, O Christmas Tree. Then there's What Child Is This, which is a hymn, of course. And then there's the Christmas Song, which is Mel Torme, right? And the rest of them, Fear Elise is on the record, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. But the ones like Skating, Christmas Time is Here, Christmas is Coming, like there are Linus and Lucy,
Yeah.
a lot of these ones that we are so familiar with.
They're standards
They're all
now.
Vince. There's
came
exactly.
from this.
They're standards now, but
You
Vince wrote
think
them.
of it as a standard,
Yeah.
but he
Holy
wrote this song.
Moly. I
was
feel
written-
so bad that I did not know that.
This was
That's
written.
what I'm saying. Is I think a lot of people don't know that.
Here we go. Let's listen to the song Christmas Time is Here, written and performed by Vince Guaraldi.
And the Vince Guaraldi Trio. It's in the band. Yeah.
That's how roomy those drums are.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting. It's like a key change. Starts with a key change.
Flat 7 chord. Flat 5, climb down. Then 2, 5, 1. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So simple.
Such interesting phrasing. Oh!
Genius.
Okay, wait, we gotta stop there and just
Genius.
talk about that for a second.
Genius.
Charles, walk us through. What the hell's going on here?
So we're in the key of F, right?
Okay.
So we go. Which all of this is right here. And the brilliance of this is that we're using this chord that's built on the flat 7th of the key. So we have an E flat dominant chord, but the melody is the sharp 4. So it creates this E flat 7 sharp 11 sound, right? So that's going to be basically the main theme of this whole thing. And then we go from here up to that flat 5, and then this is such a classic.
But that's like a passing.
No,
No.
check it out.
Hangs
So-
out on the flat 5.
So watch this. So
Oh yes.
do you know what each one of those things are?
What is
so
that?
obviously we're moving chromatically, right?
Yeah.
But every time we're moving chromatically, what that's doing is we are essentially doing 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, but instead of the 5,
It's a tritone sub.
tritone sub. So here's a real basic explanation of a tritone substitution. What I have here is a badly drawn circle of fifths. Basically, it's sharps going up, flats going up. When we do what's called a 2-5-1 in music, we're basically going 2-5-1, because if in the key of C, D is 2 and G is 5 and C is 1. So what we're doing is instead of using this 5, we're going to substitute that out with the tritone of that. And when we do it, the tritone of G is actually D flat. And so what we wind up with is we wind up with D to D flat to C, which is just a chromatic movement. So it's basically just using the tritone that would have been the 5, the tritone of that, to get us in a chromatic motion from D to C. Check it out.
Yeah.
We would expect this to go.
So it's like
That's
a 6.
what's happening there.
It's like a
Flat 5.
yeah.
The landing points are flat 5, 3, 2, and 1. The difference is what do we throw in front of each one? We're either going to do the 5, which would be the expected motion because that goes around the circle,
Or you go chromatic down.
or we
and
go
you-
chromatic down
Yeah.
using the substitution, the tritone sub. Instead
Right.
of using E, we use B flat. Instead of using E flat, we use A,
Right.
and so on and so forth. So
Okay.
we get
To illustrate tritone sub, I'll play the tritones and you play the bass notes.
yes,
So
yes.
I'm not going to change.
so.
Okay.
So what am
I'm
I
not
playing?
going to. You're going to play the bass notes, not using tritone subs.
Okay, so around the circle.
You're going to go around the circle.
Just roots,
Yeah.
no chords. Okay,
Just root. I'm going to play the same thing both times, and we're going to change the bass
perfect.
notes.
Okay.
Okay.
One. Exactly the same function. It does the same thing.
So the other thing that's interesting about that too is everybody kind of does 3-6-2-5-1 as a cadence to like come back to 1, but he's doing essentially, he's doing 1 in front of a 3-6-2-5. He's doing the flat 5.
Extending it one more time around the circle.
Yeah, flat 5 to 7, kind of.
Yeah,
where it's
basically,
Not, but it almost doesn't make sense.
They're all 2 5s in their own right.
Right.
And we're just, instead of the 5, we're just using the tritone.
Yeah, so it's descending 2 5s all the way down to the
Exactly.
root.
Yep.
But starting 1-2-5 earlier than most people start a cadence.
And check out how beautifully this melody.
Okay, and another thing that you hinted at before that's so amazing about this composition is look at the note choices in relation to the chord qualities. Okay, the choice of melody. So we start on the major 7. Start with this interval, and now we go to this interval.
So that's the sharp 4.
Sharp 11, yeah.
So we're just built into the composition
Is tension.
a major 7 chord.
The quality is defined by the melody.
Quality of the chord is defined by the melody.
When we refer to quality of a chord, we're asking the simple question of, is it major or minor? And then if we have 4 notes in that chord, is that 7th a flat 7, a major 7? What is it? Those things define the quality of the chord. And when the melody note tells us exactly what that note is by either being a major 3rd or a minor 3rd, or either being a major 7th or a minor 7th, that would be the melody defining the quality of the chord.
You know what's so funny too is you're making such a good point. Sorry to switch trains here, but if you just play those 2 melody notes,
Yeah.
just play those 2 chords. No, don't even play the notes in between. That's the song.
Yeah,
Everybody knows instantly that's Christmas time.
totally.
It's
Which is
such
why-
an iconic sound.
All you need is those 2. And
Yeah.
the second you hear that, you know what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
and it continues,
Yeah.
right?
It's the same interval just transposed down
Still a major 3rd.
and then transposed down again.
Whoops.
And then one more.
Wait.
Yeah.
And then even ending on the major 9.
Yeah.
We're resolving to a major 9 chord.
This is a cool thing here. Because as we hang for a second, just a split second, we hang on this, but look at what that does to the chord. And of course, this is just a passing thing, but that's gorgeous.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, one other thought here, because these are some complex tones and harmonies, and there's also a lot of dissonance in that complexity, right? Vince isn't just giving us like, hey, everybody, we're home, we're starting in the 1, we're playing a triad. He's like starting on a major 7, going to a sharp 4. That's like, there's some dissonance there. In music, there's dissonance and there's release. It's often like tension and release. So this might sound like release. That sounds nice. This also sounds like release. These are like nice intervals that sound good together. But if you play an interval that doesn't sound good together, that sounds dissonant. And the word dissonant means that it's full of tension. But what's interesting is that he's like when you're giving people dissonance, you have to also give them grounding for it to make sense. And the grounding he's giving us is ba ba ba. And
Some rhythmic consistency.
He's giving us a caveman beat to
Yes.
latch onto
Right.
in the middle of all this harmonic complexity.
That's a
he's
great
ba
point.
ba ba da da
Time
ba
for
ba
all
ba.
that children call their favorite time. Yeah, it's this da da da.
That's the same-
da,
yep.
da, da,
And
da,
then
da.
and then he takes the first part of that rhythmic figure. So ba 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 da 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 da, and then da da da. He just takes the same pattern rhythmically, but inverts the way you hit the notes. Instead of going down, he goes up. Ba 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 ba. So up down down up down 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 up up. Right.
But
yes.
check out how much of the tune utilizes that same thing, because even once we get, we're still there. Now, still there. Still there.
Fuck. Okay, so here's what's interesting about that too. Like we were talking earlier about what makes a melody catchy.
Yeah.
This melody, after 2 seconds of
know
it, you
it.
feel like you can
You know
sing
it.
along
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's only one thing.
Yeah.
And there's so much crazy, complicated shit happening, but everybody can go ba ba ba. It's
Yeah.
like so stupid simple.
Easy to so maybe that's something to talk about in terms of like what makes the melody so catchy, right? And it's the repetition of the theme of the melody, because
Yeah.
the theme of the melody is both, at least the way I think about it, it would be both like the rhythmic components to it as well as
Yeah.
the melodic components.
Yes.
And when you make those things easy and you make it singable, which this melody, I mean, literally has words, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, you get a tune that's so easy to remember. And
The other thing that might be cool to point out that I think you just demonstrated was the A section and the B section of the song, if you took away the pitches, would be exactly the same.
yeah.
If you take away the
much, yeah.
pitches,
It's just a modulation, is what you're saying. He just takes the A section, modulates it up to a crazy key.
not a direct modulation, but the rhythm.
Yes.
Watch this.
The rhythm
Right.
of the A section and
Watch
the B
this.
section is exactly the same.
Okay, that's A, and then the bridge.
Yeah.
Same rhythm.
Same rhythm.
Exactly the same thing.
He's moving the notes around so he keeps developing the melody using new harmony. But you know, now that you've heard the A section twice, you've internalized the rhythm. And so he's keeping a thing that you know and then changing the chords and changing the pitches.
And that's the genius of it, is it's the right balance of familiarity and surprise.
Right.
Even at the same time.
Right.
At the same time, you're getting familiarity and surprise. Let's go to the next song. This is Christmas is Coming. Vince Guaraldi. Ryan, tell us
This
about
is
the
such
song.
an interesting.
Well, it's a song about Christmas and how it's coming.
How it's on the way.
is, in
It's
fact.
on the way.
Same rhythm section as before. We got Vince Guaraldi, we got Jerry Granelli, and we got Fred Marshall. Here we go. This is Christmas is Coming.
Classic Vince.
Oh, shit. Jerry.
Hear what's going on there?
Changes.
Same changes.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Blackbird. That descending stuff with the thirds is so pretty.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, or St. Thomas.
Oh, what the hell?
It's ending on the 9 again. Man, Vince loves those tritone subs.
I mean,
ending on the 9.
It's the same chromatic walk.
It's the same chromatic walk.
Same exact one.
He's purposefully, preparing us for Christmas time is here, right? By using the same chords and a similar melody and suspension.
Right.
We're starting on the 5 chord.
Wait, did this come from the same movie? It comes,
yeah.
So
This whole album is the same
Oh,
movie.
so then it's absolutely just like motivic.
That the left hand octave thing is so Vince Guaraldi.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the orchestra's warming up.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of like the Afro-Cuban influence with like the way the rhythms.
Yeah, it also
are.
feels very, Billy Joel to me. You know what I mean? It sort of harkens, it feels like, I don't know, part of the accessibility, I think, of Vince Guaraldi is the way he would use his left hand. And like the Linus and Lucy theme.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. I love it.
Yeah.
The rim shot on the 2. Yes. Such a cool drum pattern. And then bossa
So
beat.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The clave on the rim now. Yeah. Such a good way to tag, like take everything out, just have it be the piano.
And when the melody ends on that 9th, it's not the root. It's still that 5th.
Right.
It hangs out on that 5th.
Talk about, a cinematic sort of approach to composition. Christmas is coming. Anticipation. What chord are you starting on? Something is coming.
Yes!
Christmas is
Oh,
coming.
you're right, it's the narrative.
Yes.
Which we want, but it doesn't.
No.
It's still hanging out on that 5th the whole time.
It's essentially like it's kind of going back and forth between like a 5 sus chord, which is like a 4/5 sound, and like a 1/5.
Yep.
Right? It's going
Which
back
doesn't
and
give you the
forth.
satisfaction of feeling.
It's not a full resolution.
Right.
It's a partial resolution.
Yeah.
Interesting. And it also it starts on that 5 and it descends to the 1 and you don't get to home until the end of the phrase.
Right.
But you don't even get to home.
Yeah.
Because even when we play the 1 chord, it's still over the 5.
Yes, you're still anticipating.
Yeah.
Which always makes me think of Brian Wilson. He used inversions in one of my favorite ways. He's just so good at using 1/5 because it implies there's so much motion that you know what I mean? It implies that you're going somewhere. You could go 1 with the 5 in the bass up to the 4 with the 3 in the bass, or down a half step. It's just like you're immediately in the car going somewhere if you start with the 5 in the bass.
Think about what it sounds like
right.
if you literally just take. Like when you just move that, all I did was play 2 chords there.
Right.
I just played 1 and 4. That's
Yeah.
it. But if you just move around that root note, when you're using a different,
You're just climbing up the inversions in the left hand.
exactly, and sometimes it's a 3rd, other times it's a 5th, and then sometimes you do hit the root.
It's instant Randy Newman.
And I think it's going to rain today.
Totally.
It's just
Yeah.
And speaking of the sort of what you called alto syndrome, I feel like really great composers use inversions to create movement when there is no harmonic movement.
Right.
You can hang out on one harmonic center for a while and create so much flourish and interesting like timbre and sounds with just moving up and down inversions.
Totally. A lot of people will start playing the guitar and they'll go like, okay, that's a D chord. Okay. But what takes a while to get to is
Oh, yeah.
that's also a D chord.
Yeah.
That's also a D chord. That's also a D chord.
And they do very different things in the song.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's
They
also
all
a D chord.
feel unique.
Like even the difference between this chord and this chord.
Yes.
Those are all D over A, but they're all sort of, just because I'm changing the order of the notes and the spacing between the notes, they all sort of imply different movement and evoke different emotions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Those are all the same chord.
They really do evoke different emotions and different imagery. When I hear, I don't know where the heck this comes from. Play that first. Play the one first inversion. No, first inversion. I hear fucking like we're on a prairie. We're going
know what I
cross
heard?
country.
You know what I heard?
What'd you hear?
Amazing Grace.
Yes, exactly. It feels like the rolling hills of America.
Fire
and-
bass, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's essentially the second chord in Amazing Grace.
Yeah. Yes.
And then add the dominant seventh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so
man,
nice.
it's
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah. Play it without the inversion. Ba 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 ba. It doesn't have the motion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's listen to Vince's "What Child Is This?" Same band, same rhythm section.
So good. Oh, this is the second one. There's two on the record. This is the second one.
Second child.
Am I right? Look at that inner voice movement.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's he doing there?
What's he
What's he
doing?
doing there, Charles?
To the flat,
flat
six.
4.
Check this out.
I mean, that's the Wagner thing. That's
That's
like,
the Avengers theme.
yeah. Oh, is it really? I mean,
Wagner.
It was probably
yeah.
Wagner first.
Yeah. Oh,
It's the same. It's,
You know what's funny about that? What he's doing.
oh yeah.
What sweet child of mine is this?
as with many people, I have listened to this so many times over the course of my life. Like every Christmas, this is what was playing at my parents' house. And like, and I think it does for me what it probably does for many people. I think about, the wood stove at home. Like I grew up on a farm, right? So like it was the tons of snow, the cold with the wood stove that we used to heat like the kitchen area of our house would be like, our kitchen would be like 90 degrees and the other end of the house would be like 60. It's just like, and so it puts you in this place of like, it feels like Christmas. Not only does it sound like Christmas, it feels like Christmas. I think so many people have that connection with this particular record. And it's one of the reasons that it's become such a prominent Christmas album and surely one of the most played of all time. It's just it puts you right in that space.
It really does.
It so does.
It's got all the context.
And the thing to highlight that we said from before that I think is one of the ingredients in allowing this to sort of stand the test of time is that it really feels genuine. Like it really feels honest. It's like structurally, there's so much like there's so much meat on the bones in each of these compositions. You know what I mean? Like they're
legitimately great tunes.
They're legitimately great songs that have come to feel like standards and come to feel like Christmas.
Okay, factoids. Here we go. Let's go to factoids. Lightning round.
Okay, who performed the vocals on the choir version of Christmas Time Is Here?
It's a children's choir, but I don't know where from.
I have no idea.
A children's choir from St. Paul's Episcopal Church in San Rafael
Performed
the vocals on the choir version.
in Marin County?
Apparently,
Oh my gosh.
unless there's a different San Rafael.
You lived in San Rafael for a while.
I grew up in San Rafael.
Wow.
Questions?
Yeah, let's go into questions from our Discord community.
Discord community.
This is from RDubs15. What is it about the Vince Guaraldi trio that makes the music both incredibly engaging with new things to discover on subsequent listens and the perfect background music that totally fades out of notice?
Piano trio, first of all. I mean, jazz piano trio can be one of those things that is equally engaging if you want it to be, but can also exist very well in the background because the timbre is not the same as like a lead, like a saxophone or a trumpet. So, piano trio works really great. That's why, like, back when I was, playing a bunch of gigs for a living, like, it was like a lot of restaurants and stuff like that, because it just works really well in that context. And then in terms of like finding new things, I think that's the nature of like most straight ahead jazz. You can constantly go back through because, inevitably, we all as musicians are constantly growing. We're constantly learning new things. And so with every listen, you're going to pick up on like, oh, that's how he navigated from this chord to that chord. Oh, I never heard that sort of enclosure around this resolution note in this particular line moving from F minor to D flat major 7 or something like that. You can constantly pick up on these individual little tiny details that we see so much in straight ahead jazz, which a lot of this is. Of course, like you mentioned, there are definitely, like Christmas is Coming has so many different influences from some of the Latin influences, pop influences, all melded together. But we constantly come back to this overall sort of theme of it being a jazz record. And like that, just there's so much content. And that's why one of the reasons I think Vince was such an underrated player, because people didn't, we don't, like I said, we don't really look to him as like, oh, study Vince Guaraldi, and I think maybe that's in part because, well, Vince also studied a lot of the people that we go to as sort of the baseline resources for education. But it's all there, and there's so many layers to pick apart and break down and look for some of that harmonic and melodic information, especially in an improvisational context. There's so much that we can learn from it.
I think you just nailed it. Like, if you zoom in on any one track, you could kind of analyze it and talk about it harmonically and melodically for the rest of your life. It's so dense and complex and interesting and engaging. And if you're listening for those things, it's beautiful. If you're not, and you're just taking literally the sonic footprint, listen to the sonic footprint of each one of these songs. I'm going to just go right through all four. Right there. And then like if you plotted that on a spectrograph, it would literally be the same shape for all four songs.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing poking out and saying, listen to me. Listen to this moment right here. There's nothing stealing your attention. So if you want to just let it be something that's happening in the background without digging into it, it actually works really well for that.
Until all the kids start screaming, "Hark the Herald Angels."
Yeah. The other interesting thing that just occurred to me is, if it wasn't for this album, would anyone know who Vince Guaraldi was?
I think the answer is probably no, unfortunately, because there is so much work of Vince's that's phenomenal.
Like, I didn't know this was his 8th and final record for this label.
I think that this was, I hate to say it, but correct.
There are two ways to write a song, either through the harmonic content or the melodic content. I prefer a strong melody. It's something that stays with. It's something that stays with you, and I can't think of an instance where anybody's walking down the street whistling the chord changes.
He wrote at least 2 hit songs, which we don't really think of them that way, but Linus and Lucy
and Christmas
Time Is Here are just, they're massive hits.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows those songs, which, like, I don't know, it's kind of inspiring to think about this guy who's a jazz piano player and he's made 7 records, and like, all right, he's not Bill
Even
Evans.
something that can't be. But to your point,
Yeah.
and Bill Evans is obviously Bill Evans, right?
Right.
But weirdly, when we look at it purely from a reach perspective and from a pop culture context,
Yeah.
I would make the argument that Vince Guaraldi has written more music that has been more impactful than even Bill Evans.
Right.
And like, obviously the inner part of me is so conflicted in saying that
Right.
because it's Bill Evans.
Yeah. It's a crazy
But
thing
it's
to think
this
about.
weird thing where it's like there's this other side of music besides purely the inherent musical value, you know, and that is impact.
So this is exactly what we were talking about before, though, right? It's you take an artist who is absolutely unbelievable. They write a bunch of music, it fizzles out, no one hears it. And then one of the things that they write catches some cultural wave because it's in some movie or it's in something, and suddenly explodes, and their back catalog gets huge, and these two songs explode, and everybody knows them for it. That's another reason why I think that, like, you have to be good. Like, table stakes is like you are the freaking best in the world and you're a genius.
But that's a given.
Like, there are so many geniuses who didn't happen to catch the cultural wave and get their song in a movie.
Right.
And then it didn't happen. And actually, that's like, I think that's something... if I'm diving deep here, can I go here?
Go there.
It is something I struggle with as an artist myself.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy for a lot of artists to feel like that person who made this genius work is more genius than anyone else. When in fact, I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of fucking great songwriters and great piano players and great musicians out there who are making incredible work. Many of them I'm our buddies, right? Whose records we listen to and love. And we're like, this is the best shit that's coming out today. And just because they haven't caught the cultural wave doesn't make them any less genius. And sometimes it's easy as an artist, I think. I've seen people do this, think like, oh, I didn't catch the cultural wave, therefore I am not as genius. But that's just not true. I don't think it's true.
I was, when I started playing with John Legend, All of Me had been out for a year. That song had been out, it had been on the radio. Nothing really happened. You know what I mean? And then he played it on, I think it was the Grammys or the Oscars, and he was in a white suit at a white piano, and it was just this beautiful performance and visually stunning. And that moment, the song took off. And right when we started playing, that song was just like climbing and climbing and climbing. And it became like one of the most massive songs of the last, 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
But were it not for that one performance that just kind of like framed it in a new way or painted it in a new light, who knows? Like, the song didn't change. It had been out as a single. The label had pushed it. It was like, well, that's that song. But sometimes it just takes like that 2 millimeter shift of that, just like you're saying, the right cultural moment to push something over the edge.
And I think that's a great way to end the episode today. Charles, it has been so fantastic talking with you about music. I really just want to do this all day.
I know.
I just want to
So do
sit
I.
down
So
and
do
talk
I.
with you all
We're gonna
day.
have you back, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
And
Thanks,
I can't
for
wait.
having me.
I can't wait for our Christmas record that the three of us make together.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, we're coming out with new episodes of Professional Musicians React every week. So definitely subscribe if you want more. And we will see you next time.
Everybody go check out Charles's channel. Charles is making amazing content over there. He's got a music course, Cornell Music Academy.
Yes,
.com.
it is.
Check it out. He's got multiple videos every week. Everybody go check out Charles. He's amazing.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Happy holidays. We'll see you next time.